Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Simply Art. Well, this is the first time that I will doing this in English, and my English is not so perfect. So try to be patient with me. I will try to translate some words in Spanish for my Spanish viewers. So, hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos a mi canal Simply Art. Mi inglés no es perfecto, pero espero que las personas que hablen en inglés puedan también ayudarme y bueno, que tengan paciencia conmigo. So I'm so happy to introduce my friend and my brother-in-law. My brother in faith. I don't know why I said brother in faith in law. My brother in faith, Charles Tryon. Yes, he's a talent sculptor and talent artist, and I feel so happy to having him here in my channel. Yes, so please welcome to Charles, please. Hi, Charles.
Hello, Ari. Good to see you.
It's nice to see you too. I feel a honor just to have you here in my channel.
Well, I'm glad to be here and to contribute to your channel here.
Yes, I'm so happy that you accept my invitation. So tell us about yourself. Tell us why, how you become an artist, and tell us.
Yes. Well, I've been doing art for a long time. When I was little, I always had clay in my hands or my pocket. My teachers used to go crazy because I always was fiddling with the clay. And through high school, I took all the art courses I could. But also my family was very science and math oriented. My father was a computer programmer way back in the dawn of the computer age. And so in college, I followed his footsteps. And so I actually spent about 30 years working with computers and software and programming and IT. So, but I never forgot about my art. I kept playing around with it a little bit. I've always loved having a sketchbook and drawing things, whether I'm something that I see or just drawing from imagination. And I've always been particularly drawn to the figure, to the human figure, just the way that God has made us as humans, and the grace and the strength and beauty and all of those things. So about 10 years ago, I moved 1,000 miles from the north part of the US, New York State, down to Georgia to work with an organization down here. And I started working with computers with that organization, but I also just got more and more interested in the arts. And I took some lessons in clay and just began to remember just how much I loved having my hands in the mud. I mean, you can see some of the mud dirt or the clay I have on my fingers now. Yeah, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I really, or maybe 8 years ago, it really made a switch from working primarily with the computer job to really focusing in on my art, sculpture primarily, but also drawing. And more recently, it's kind of been my COVID thing, learning something new. Have been working with watercolor painting. Still largely around the figure, but also with Ari teaching me all kinds of new things to try and being abstract and trying new styles, and so that's how I've gotten here.
Yes, that's true. Uh, well, I need to say that your paintings in watercolor are so good that have you have practiced a lot the human figures.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that will help you to in sculpture. That will help you in watercolor too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's the reason that Charles, I decided to invite to Charles to my channel because he's my student too. So, but we work in our art together. Like it's not just me teaching; it's Charles too teaching me. So I think this is a very good combination. Yes.
Yes,
So
we learn a lot from each other.
yes, we are learning each other. Yes, that's that's one of the most incredible things that I really like to have friends, to have artist friends. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's that we can share some tips, we can share our art. Yes,
And
that's true.
even we can share the way that you look at the world around you and you see things and interpret things, because
Different.
yeah, a lot of being an artist is not just the skill of being able to paint or draw or sculpt, but it's being able to see things and then reflect those things in what you're creating.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. So Charles, um, I don't know. It calls my attention. Like you spend a lot of time working in computers and something like that, and then you decide to involve you in your art. How was this separation? How was this stage in your life?
Well, it's interesting because working, especially when you're writing computer software, um, that is a very creative process, and so it's you are creating something. It's more to address some problem or communication or whatever, as it's different from like seeing and reflecting beauty in the world around us. But it's funny because as I talked with my other art or my other computer friends, um, there is an idea of beautiful programming amongst the best people who write software. I mean, there are people who just kind of throw it together, but other people who really want to craft the software. And it's something that's internal. It's not just in the way it looks to the user, but it's the way that it's structured, it holds together, it makes sense, it's flexible.
Mhm.
So there's
Mhm.
so even as a computer programmer, I still was trying to create some kind of beauty. So um, so it wasn't really that much different when I started to work more directly with the arts. So here I was creating, I was seeing things, whether it's the figure or whether it's ideas and thoughts and emotions and all of these things that make us who we are, just trying to reflect those in my art. So,
Mm. Interesting.
oh,
Yes, it's true.
of course, once a computer geek, always a computer geek. I still spend plenty of time fixing computers, so, and helping people with technology. So I never get that far away from it.
Mm, yes, it's very interesting because uh, for me, computers and the sculptures, it's like something so different, like something so separated. And but you explained that it's not so far, like it's molding something and the pieces
Mm-hmm.
working with the pieces. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I haven't.
that's a very good description of it.
Yes, yes, I haven't heard about this, but it's a good connection, I think.
Hmm.
Yes, it's interesting. Yeah, art and technology and computers. I don't know. It's weird, but it's nice to hear it.
Hmm.
And what about your work with OM? Can you talk about this?
Okay, so the organization I work with is Operation Mobilization, which is an international missions and relief organization, and the group um, the group that I work with, which is actually called Inspiro Arts Alliance, is well, we say it's because the gospel is beautiful, and so when we through our art can reflect the beauty of God, his creation, how God speaks to us, how God relates with us, how God sees us in our brokenness. I have a piece that I actually sold it to someone who really identified with it. Um, but when I put it into the kiln, working with clay, you work with the kiln, which I call my sleeping dragon, because it goes to over 1,000 degrees Celsius when you're firing things, and so it
Wow,
actually turns
it's so hot.
it turns his mud, which has dried, it turns it back into stone. So there's this whole process, but it's sometimes a very scary process because you take these things that you have made, and you mean I have very
Yes, you
personal.
are working with fire.
Yes, I am working with fire. And so I have to put all of my little figures and my little creations and things into the fire. And it takes a full day from the time I turn it on and the temperature goes up and then it reaches its maximum temperature and then it cools down again. So I'm waiting for a whole day. And sometimes I open the kiln and things have worked really well. And other times things have broken or even sometimes exploded. And I open up the kiln and my figure is scattered all over the inside of the kiln in 1,000 million little pieces. And and I have taken pieces that have broken, and even that one that exploded, and it was just a pile of fragments. And I took all of those fragments out, and one by one, I started gluing them back together again. And I came up with this whole figure because I remembered in my head that figure, even though it was broken and shattered and in little pieces. I still remembered what my intention was, and so I could put it back together again. And you could still see the cracks in the lines, and there were a few holes from pieces that I couldn't find. But I thought that figure so reflected the reality of who we are and how God, who's the ultimate artist, has taken all those little bits and pieces and
Broken pieces.
broken pieces. And there was a lady, I had an art show, and a lady came in and she looked at it, and I was explaining it, and she started crying. I was like, and I asked her, she started to explain, this piece reflects me. I can see myself in this piece. And so she bought it, and she told me when she came a little while later, she came and to pick it up with a friend of hers, and she started to tell me just some of her story and all of the different health issues, and she had almost lost a baby, and just issues with family and so many different things. And she said, God has put me back together again. And she said, I'm going to take this sculpture and I'm going to put it out so that people can see it. And this sculpture is how I'm going to tell people about my story. And my story of redemption and God putting me back together again.
Yeah, this is a beautiful story. I really love it. When you told me, when you shared this story, I was like, oh, I, I I can identify myself in that lady too. Like it's beautiful to see how you creation, how you as an artist can you touch people's souls. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Uh,
One of the things I've done a little bit, there is an ancient Japanese tradition called Kimsugi, which is, it takes these priceless tea bowls from the Japanese tea ceremony, which is a very, very important part of the whole Japanese artistic concept. This tea ceremony, and sometimes these bowls, these teacup bowls, will break. And they're ceramic, and sometimes things get broken. But there's a tradition of taking these broken pieces, and a kintsugi master will take them, and he may contemplate them for years, but then he puts them back together with lacquer and gold. And I wish I had one I could show you, but the piece becomes more valuable when it has been mended with gold than it started out. And I have taken a few pieces, if I can show, there's one piece here, and she's earth. She's kind of coming out of the clay. Whoops. But when I fired the piece, she broke in the middle, or she kind of exploded. I found pieces scattered around, and I took some gold-colored material, and if you look very closely, you can see the crack that goes all the way around and then onto her back, and you can see the little bits of gold where she's been put back together again, especially like around.
oh wow! I removed myself to show more your
Yeah.
picture, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, it's trying to use that same idea of something which has shattered, and she shattered in the fire.
But something beauty came
Yes,
from
but something
this.
yes.
Yeah, it's a very nice representation of how God can restore us, and something beauty can came from that.
Right.
That's so good, Charles. Now I remember many times when God removed my broken parts and He building something beautiful. I think He's the most beautiful artist that exists. Like
So
he
yeah,
can.
he is the artist who created every other artist.
Yes, and he create everything, the nature and the beautiful in this world. So yes, he's the most beautiful artist that exists. Okay, so why you choose woman? This is always my question. Sorry, but I don't know. It's interesting. Tell us.
Yeah. I know people do ask me that, and I don't know that I have a good answer other than I just follow the when I see something, and the beauty of the human form. I mean, artists have been portraying the female form for a very long time. Yeah, I guess I'm just attracted to the beauty in the female form and trying to portray it. And also not, I mean, there's so much which has been sexualized in the artistic representation of the female. My hope is to rather than sexualizing it, to portray the strength, the resilience, the hope, the inner beauty of people, of women, and to reflect that, and to hopefully encourage them to see themselves as beautiful, strong, resilient, courageous, full of hope, even when there's so much which is hitting them from the outside and the inside.
Yes, I forgot to translate this in Spanish until now. I remember, oh, I need to translate this, but I will translate some parts in Spanish. Bueno, como ustedes saben, Charles nos ha contado que sus esculturas, muchas de sus esculturas han pasado, o sea, el proceso pasa por un, ya cuando cuando seca sus esculturas, cuando tiene que, como de alguna manera, darles vida, algo así, tienen que pasar por un proceso de fuego. Entonces nos estaba hablando acerca de eso y de cómo es que Dios, Él ve este proceso, ¿no? Como cuando Dios nos redime, cuando nos repara, cuando estamos rotos, y Él entonces empieza a juntar todas las piezas, porque en muchos de estos procesos que Charles tiene que hacer como escultor, tiene que pasarlos por fuego. Entonces a veces las figuras como que se rompen o se truenan, entonces Él tiene que volver a componerlas. Y Él nos contó una historia muy linda en donde una mujer vio todas esas piezas rotas y de alguna manera se identificó con ella, ¿no? Con esta escultura, y dijo que ella se sentía así, ¿no? Como que rota. Entonces, una parte muy linda de él como escultor, como artista, es como volverlas a juntar, volverlas a pegar, ¿no? Y un poco lo comparamos esto con el proceso de cómo es que Dios nos repara, ¿no? Cuando estamos rotos, cuando algo nos falta, cuando sentimos que estamos tristes y estamos mal. Él es como un artista, es como un escultor que vuelve a juntar las piezas. Entonces, más o menos esa es la analogía que nos estaba contando Charles. Y bueno, ahora la pregunta que yo le hice a Charles fue por qué hace esculturas de mujeres, ¿no? Entonces, él nos contó acerca de que trata de encontrar la belleza en las mujeres, ¿no? Como estas creaciones de Dios, ¿no? Tanto de fuera, ¿no? Tanto por dentro. Entonces, eso es algo también como muy lindo en su arte. Okay, Charles, do you have another story like that you can share with us? I think you have a lot of stories like this.
Well, one other thing I do is, let's see, if you know Ari, you know that she's very interested in the Narnia stories and anything that has to do with Narnia. One thing that has always fascinated me is the idea of the Dryads, and the Dryads are they come from ancient Greek mythology, but C.S. Lewis used them a lot in Narnia, and it's the spirits of the trees. So these talking trees, you know, they're just like the talking animals.
Yes, I remember. Yes, I remember now this character. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's many times he refers to the trees, and they would transform back and forth between the tree, just looking like a tree, whether it's a beech tree or birch or a cedar or an oak tree, and then a person. And C.S. Lewis said a number of times that you could look at when the tree had transformed, or you would turn into their human form. You could look at them and you could tell, oh, that's an oak tree, or that's a cedar or something, because the character of the person would reflect the character of the tree. And of course, C.S. Lewis loved anything that had to do with nature or the woods or whatever, the natural world. So I've created a whole series. And also I like the idea of us being deeply rooted. So God creates the character of the tree, and the fruit of that tree comes from the DNA of the tree, the character of the tree, not from them working really hard to do this, that, or the other thing. But what the tree needs to do in order to produce that fruit is to have its roots really deep. And so as people, when we have our roots deep in our faith, then we produce the fruit that God wants us to. But I did have one of my Dryad figures here, and this one is the beech tree. And a beech tree, if you can see, the beech tree has when I researched, it has a very smooth bark, but also on the roots tend to go across the ground. They'll follow along the surface of the ground before they can go down in. So they have all these roots. Another interesting thing is, because the bark is so smooth, the beech trees have a reputation for people carving their initials. So I actually put into this tree, if you can see, I put my little, a little heart and arrow with my and my wife's initials in the tree. But so you have the tree on the bottom, and sometimes you'll have multiple trunks, beech trees, if there's a couple of them together, and they will begin to grow together into one. And so then we have this figure. And again, she's reaching up towards the sun, towards the light, reaching up in hope.
Wow, I love.
So that's beech. And I have another one which goes with her. It's a male figure, but he is the cedar. So he's like the cedar tree. But again, I tried to make the bark and give him a really strong character, like a cedar tree.
Wow. So, I love the roots. I really love the roots.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. Yes. I just remember many trees with this kind of roots.
Oh, yeah.
Roots.
And they twist and they turn and interweave all across the surface.
Yeah, and also I think that the texture of the clay. Yeah. It looks like wood,
Right.
It's like wood. Mm-hmm. It's like a wood piece or something. It included the color, the color of the clay, like it's brown.
Right.
Yeah, and I really love the detail of the heart with the arrow. Yeah, this is so common. Yeah, it's something like we used to do that in the poor trees.
Yeah.
Yes, I really love it. Yeah, and this analogy about the fruits of the spirit. Yes, I think it's important to remember. Yes, to remember the fruits of the spirit and our roots. It's to have a foundation in our faith. Yes. So I need to explain this in Spanish.
Okay. If you want me to hold it up while you're explaining, I can do that.
Yeah, of course. Bueno, algo que Charles nos estaba explicando con esta escultura. Can you show us?
Yeah, yes. Yep.
Yes, yes. Es que, bueno, en nuestra fe, ¿verdad? En nuestra fe cristiana, esta analogía acerca de los frutos del Espíritu, que es paz, amor, benignidad y muchas templanza, control, dominio propio. Entonces, él hacía un poco esta analogía, ¿no? De un árbol, ¿no? Con una figura femenina, ¿no? Que tiene raíces muy fuertes y están cimentadas, que tienen que estar cimentadas en la fe para que pueda tener este tipo de frutos, ¿no? Frutos del espíritu, como nosotros les llamamos. Y también es un poco esta analogía acerca de personajes que aparecen en Narnia, ¿sí? De C.S. Lewis, ¿sí? Que ustedes saben que pues a mí me encanta Narnia y a Charles también. Tenemos eso en común. Entonces, son personajes que están, son figuras femeninas, ¿no? Que están en los árboles. Creo que la última, I think in the last movie of Narnias, appears, ¿no? Appears these figures, these characters.
Well, in the first movie, they had
the first movie.
Well, and of course in the books, but in the movie there was these. You could see the wind coming, the leaves. He showed the movie, and they showed the leaves floating through, and then the leaves coalesced and formed, and a person appeared.
Yes,
that's how they portrayed it in the movie.
Yeah, it was in the first movie. Sí, en la primera película, en la del el ropero, la bruja, el ropero y el león, aparecen estos personajes, ¿no? De mujeres, de figuras femeninas como árboles, y además el viento como mueve las hojas, y entonces les están diciendo, creo que les están advirtiendo algo a Lucy y a Susan. I think they warning Lucy and Susan. I don't
remember the scene.
No,
it was when they were coming to. I think it was when they were coming to meet Aslan for the first time.
Oh yeah.
And they met him along the way as the beavers were leading them.
Yes. I think so. Yeah, they were in the way to meet Aslan, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Creo que aparecieron cuando ellas se iban a encontrar, iban a conocer a Aslan, creo, algo así. Yeah. So thank you so much for showing us these amazing sculptures.
The dancers too.
Oh, the dancers. I really love the poses. Yes, the poses of the human body. How did you do that? How do you do that?
A lot of experience in a lot of bad sculptures.
Yeah, but with the poses, do you have a models or something?
You can get reference photos, like anatomy reference photos. This one actually the idea came from a friend of mine who does painting, and he did a painting of a dancer that, from a live model, and it was kind of like this. She was leaning forward with her hands forward, and of course the big, this huge, the tutu that went around. And so I kind of based, knowing the shape of the human form and how it goes together, and even, the little details along the back, like her spine and the opening.
The bones in the back.
Yes, the bones and I've done a lot, looking at, reference photos, you get the idea of how the muscles and the bones in the shoulder come together.
Wow. The little details.
Yes. And the little, the little bun there, and
I really love how you
ribbon.
Capture the textures, like the hair and the bones in the back and the fabric of the dress, of the tutu.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was interesting, trying to make that thin
Yeah.
display there. That's taken some practice to get it to not. You have to be careful so that it doesn't crack
Yes.
too much as it dries.
Wow.
Because as
Wow.
it dries, it shrinks.
What a precision to do that.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. Yes. Bueno, algo que yo le dije a Charles hace rato es como, ¿cómo haces eso? Y me dijo, bueno, con mucha práctica y con muchas esculturas rotas, ¿no? Y creo que eso es como que
And it all starts.
el punto del arte. You're working in a new.
Yes, it all starts with a lump of clay. So it's. So.
Yes, it's still dry. It's still wet.
Yes, it's still wet. And I'm just beginning to work on a figure.
Wow.
And there's, I've got a photo from a someone I know. So trying to, yeah, and it's a lot of working with different tools, and so trying to get the shape and experimenting, and sometimes adding a bit of clay here or taking it off. I have lots of different tools that I work with.
Different tools, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll use brushes, like a brush with water on it, because that'll smooth it out. And sometimes for making a very smooth surface,
wow,
my fingernail. So by using the fingernail, that's
the fingernail too. Yes, it could be a good tool. Wow. I'm trying to looking for your Instagram to show.
Oh, right.
Yes, to show your paintings.
It should be Chuck Tryon, I think.
Yes.
Is it Chuck Tryon or it's probably Charles Tryon?
Yes, Charles Tryon. I have it here. So yeah, thank you so much for showing us your sculptures. They are amazing, and I don't know, it's a lot of practice, it's a lot of precision. And
people ask me how long, they say, how long did it take you to make that sculpture?
Yes, how long? Yes, it's a good question.
Yeah, how long it takes me?
Yes.
It's taken me to make that sculpture 50 years.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Because it's 50 years worth of, like I said, 50 years worth of bad sculptures in order to get to the point where, it's like someone
practice is everything. I think practice is everything in our team. Many things.
Have you heard the expression, every artist has 1,000 or 10,000 bad paintings or bad drawings in their system, inside of them. The faster they get those 10,000 bad drawings out, the sooner they can start doing good drawings.
Yes, that's true. I'm thinking, how can I translate this in Spanish? Yes, because it's a very good phrase, but maybe I will think more about that, and I will put in the comments or something. It's good. I think, for example, I think in a Picasso, Picasso, he said like you need to be a good artist I don't remember very well the phrase, but it's something like he was a very, very good painter, very, very good artist since he was a child. He was a teenager, and he could break he could experiment with other kind of art, so that show us like he's a good artist, like it's not always the precision, it's not always the perfect. Like you could be a perfect and then you can experiment with other kind of art, and that would be um, a good artist too, something
Mhm.
like that. I just remembered that
Mhm.
phrase. Yes.
Like
So
my paintings.
yes, your paintings. So we are going to see some paintings. Like it's interesting to see how Charles make sculptures, but also he can draw and he can make watercolors with this kind of figures. So we are going to see it. We are going to see them.
Okay. Are you showing them on the Instagram, or do you want me to hold them up?
No, I have it's your Instagram. Yes, I can share my screen. Okay, let me see. Where is it? Yes. Okay.
And also my website. So
hmm Share screen. Share. Okay. So yes,
okay.
here are the Instagram from Charles. So, do you want to talk about something in specific? Some paintings that you want to
Well,
share?
I was going to say some of these are from reference pictures that um, different artists or photographers that I know. This is
Mhm.
Nadine, who I've been following on Instagram for quite a while, and that was a photo on her site. Um, yeah, and whenever I do a painting of one of these models, I always send it to them so they can see. Um,
Oh wow! I really love the transparencies in the fabric. Yes.
That has taken me a while to learn, and my excellent watercolor teacher has helped me on that.
Thank you so much.
You can see that some of the white lines I actually
Mhm.
was able to use masking fluid.
Masking fluid, yes,
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So to create the lines, and also just learning that with watercolor, they say less is more. So
Yes, that's true.
um, let me see the peach or the plum that she's eating. I think that actually I'm not sure. I don't remember if that was one of yours or one of. There's another class that I took, nature journaling.
Mhm.
So learning how to do that, um,
Mhm.
and even just in the shadows, trying to learn, like in her face, trying to leave enough white to give the highlights,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then create the shadows. Um, yeah, the transparency of the shawl or the blouse or whatever it is that she's wearing, um, just having just a little tiny hint of her back, the line of her back going through there, but a lot of it was just creating kind of a bluish, a very very light bluish gray,
Mhm.
which when you leave the white areas, the gray becomes the shadows, and so it gives the appearance of actually being white.
Mhm. Yes, and you respect a lot of the whites, a lot of whites, a lot of the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's something. Sometimes it's hard to reserve that parts in watercolors to reserve whites. Yes,
Right.
but you respect it.
Yeah, especially like in her hand, the hand that's next to her
Yes,
face.
in the hands and also in the face, on the
Yeah.
face. Yes, and I really love the colors in the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think it's a very contrast between the fabric,
Right.
like the fabric is white and also transparent, and the fruit it's the opposite. No,
Yes.
it's a lot of contrast.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
like the spot where she's taken one bite out of it, so you can see the inside of the plum
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the top there. It's a yellowish color.
And
And
I really, yes, yes.
doing her hair, I have had a terrible time trying to learn how to do hair.
Yes, the hair. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's
again, like some of that's just letting the watercolor do its whatever the watercolor does.
yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. 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 That's true. Uh, yes, that is something that that called me my attention too, like the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it looks a lot of like the water here
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when it's dry. Yes, but also it looks so good. It looks like a hair,
Mm-hmm.
natural hair.
And getting the little bit of white in there for the part in the middle of her head.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, but it's absolutely true. Like you need to leave the watercolor leaves.
Right.
Like yes. I think for that reason, many people doesn't like watercolor
Mm-hmm.
because many times you need to let it to leave it.
Yeah, you lose control. You have to
Yes,
let
you
the
lose
watercolor.
control. That's true. Hmm. Also, the fabric. I think you have a lot of figures with fabric, with this kind of fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
The transparencies. Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah, that's again, I've learned as I've done this more and more, I've learned that again, let the watercolor do its thing. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to draw every little fold and flip.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes,
and a
and
little bit
also
like on this one, trying to get the blue or the lighter blue on the top and then more gray towards the center there where there's more shadow.
mhm,
And even on the right hand side where there's brighter in the front and then shadow in the back to
mhm.
create the dimension.
Yes, yeah, I really love it. Yeah, and also the colors that you use, like the blue and also gray. There are a little gray too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. In the shadows of the fabric, and also the movement. I really love the movement that
Mm-hmm.
you include in this kind of watercolors. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of movement. Like she's with this pose, but it looks like she's dancing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the rule that there is no such thing as true black or true white. Everything is a color.
Mhm. Yes, and also I can see in the hair the same
Mm-hmm.
treatment as
Mm-hmm.
as the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I really like how you let leave the watercolor those that they like yeah.
Yep.
It's more freedom. This is recent, right?
Pardon?
That you made this painting um, like
Recently?
recently. Yes,
I mean, you can look at the date on the posting. I tend to post things.
6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about how old. And that is one I actually did a smaller version. If you go down, I did a version that was just basically her face and shoulders. I think maybe down to her chest a little bit. That was the artist trading card. Oh, and you talk about letting the watercolor do its thing. The leaves in the window.
Oh yeah, the leaves in the
That's
wind. I
that
really love
that's
it.
straight out of one of my watercolor classes with Ari.
With me.
Yeah. the abstracting, and the leaves just become the blob. And you get the green on the top and a little bit more brown towards the bottom of the window.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And trying to use the resist, the what do you call it? Masking fluid.
Masking fluid. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. Or says drawing gum, and I use it with just a steel pen.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that on all of those vertical and horizontal lines on the window in order to get my really straight edges. But you can see down towards the bottom of the window, it turns more brown. So that would be like the ground or the earth, a little bit of brown there around her foot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also the tones in the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are a lot of colors in there, like
Mm-hmm.
the shadow in the legs, the shadow in the hands, also here in
Mm-hmm.
the chest. Wow.
Yeah, and there's blue on her side, on her waist.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. It looks so good.
That
Wow.
was another one where the hair I was afraid of what it was going to do, and then sometimes when you're in the middle of the painting, it looks horrible, but then when it starts to dry, you start getting more texture.
Yes, that's
more
true.
depth, and then all of a sudden it starts doing its own thing, and whatever it is, it comes out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's beautiful. Okay, let's
And my
see.
artist,
Oh, here, I really like this, the pose here.
Mm-hmm. Now that's on, I don't know what it is in centimeters or millimeters, but that's a 2.5 by 3.5 card that I'm painting some of these little portraits on.
Yes, yes, you showed me many of these
Mm-hmm.
paintings. And you made this in our class, right? I think so.
I don't remember if I did that. I think I probably started it.
Yeah, maybe yes, you started it. Yes. I really like the shadows. The shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was working with a photo. She's a dancer in Italy, and trying to get all of and some of that comes because of from the sculpture, trying to do all of the muscles and the tendons and the contours around the neck and the collarbone and all of that.
Wow. Yes. Yes. And to make this it's hard, like to pick and to choose the right colors
Mm-hmm.
to the shadows in the flesh, in the skin,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to, but I think you have a very good study of color, like
Mm-hmm.
yes, you always try to see what is the opposite color and the complementary color in our classes, so I think you have a
Mm-hmm.
very good studio of colors.
Although her ear turned out to be a little bit bluer than I intended.
Yeah, that's true. Oh wow, you have a lot of figures. You have a lot of
Yeah,
watercolor.
that's more with the fabric.
Yes, with the fabric. And you take advantage of that effect with
Mm-hmm.
watercolor. I think it's perfect. Watercolor is perfect to make these kind of details,
Mm-hmm.
like the transparency in the fabric,
Mm-hmm.
because it's transparent.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, and you let it go, and it is what it is. And it's kind of like, well, it's like the fabric. You don't control the fabric very much. And so you're just trying to imitate that, the way the fabric falls without control.
Yeah. Wow.
And you can see.
This is one of my favorites.
Oh, yes.
Tell us the story of it, about this.
Well, I have a sculpture that's kind of like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
I like to just draw things. If I'm listening to someone speak, or I just somewhere, and an idea or an emotion or a thought strikes me, and so I drew this, and this one I drew in just a notebook, a small notebook that I have. It's regular fountain pen, and then I have a water brush, the kind of brush that has water inside the handle of it, so you can squeeze it out. And I went over the ink, including where I had written "Hope holds onto us," and it's wherever the ink is, and wherever I go over it with the water, it smears the ink, the fountain pen ink, because it's a water soluble ink rather than a permanent ink, like you might get in a Sharpie or a marker. And I like the idea of, like I said, I have a sculpture which is like this. And the idea is,
I remember to see it.
If you're holding on to someone like this, or if you're trying to pull someone up, and they lose their strength, they tend to slip out. But when you're holding on to a wrist like that, even if the person who's on the bottom, and you can see the hand coming from the top is the larger, stronger hand. But if the bottom hand, if it loses strength and lets go, the top hand is still holding on and can hold it up. So hope, even when we run out of hope, even when we are we think that we're going to give up because we have no more strength left, that hope holds on to us and doesn't let us go.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it's powerful. The message of this is in like someone that is holding you. It represents many things. I have here one of my paintings, like it's similar. I don't know if you see it.
Oh, I think I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah. But I try to make this kind of similar, like something is holding you. Yes, and also I
like the colors and you did a very good job with the anatomy on that one.
Yeah, well, this was one of my first watercolors, and if you see, I put a lot of color. Like in watercolor, you need to put more like
more
water. Yes, water. And I abuse some of the color. Yes, I don't. Yes, but I think it's similar. Like the message, it's similar. Oh, I have here some friends that they are seeing or transmission.
Yes.
Hola, David. Un saludo. Buena tarde. He's saying good afternoon. And also have
any questions?
Oh yeah, I also have here my friend Alsacia Hart, that she's an art historian too, and she has her own YouTube channel. If you have the opportunity to see her channel, it would be so good. But it's in Spanish. That's the bad thing. Mi
The bad
amiga
thing.
Alsacia Heart también nos está saludando. Hola. Y nos está diciendo que apenas vio mi mensaje porque le avisé. I, I sent to her a message like, I will be in a live. I hope you can see us. And she said, oh, recently I have seen your message. And she said, greetings to Charles.
Greetings.
Hi to Charles. Yes.
Yeah, if they have any questions.
Excuse me?
If they have any questions to ask.
No, they also say just greetings. And one of my friends is say, I don't know English, live my life. Bye. Don't worry, don't worry. Don't worry. And also here I have my friend that is say, please say to hi to us. Hi, hi. Hola, hola mis amigos. Gracias por vernos. Thanks to watching, friends.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of noise around here.
Oh.
Many people is
Somebody's singing.
Yes. Sorry for that.
I was going to say I usually have my background music on. Sometimes they play the Narnia themes from the movie.
Yes, yes.
I like that for my background music for
Me too. Me too.
I'm creating.
It's very inspiring to listen this kind of music, Narnia's music. Yeah, I really love it. And also when I'm painting something from Narnia, also, of course.
Yes.
Yes, many of my paintings are from Narnia. My favorite paintings are from Narnia. Most specifically with Lucy.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
You know that. Yeah. Well, friend, thank you so much for coming in this day. Thank you so much. It's something that you want to say?
Oh, for me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you had.
It was a question.
Yes. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to add. I mean, it's a shame. Yeah, I've really enjoyed being able to interact with you over all of these years that we've known each other, and it's a lot of what I have learned in terms of creating art and understanding how it speaks comes from so many different artists that I've met from all around the world. And even before the COVID thing and everybody going online, but getting to know some of these artists, whether it's from the Faroe Islands up north to South Africa and Hong Kong and New Zealand and all these different artists, and all of this, being able to see their heart and understand how their art has spoken to them and how they have seen their art speak to other people. That's so much of what I've learned in my experience. And so now I just am turning around and trying to share that with other people.
Yeah, the art is international.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I need to say this in Spanish.
Yes.
Bueno, algo que nos decía Charles es que pues ha aprendido mucho acerca del arte, de su arte y del arte de otras personas, como lo han inspirado bastante, ¿no? Como en esta búsqueda de la creatividad y todo lo demás, ¿no? No solo con esto del COVID, ¿no? Que nos acercó mucho a todo online, sino que también desde antes como que ya había tenido ciertas conexiones, ¿no? Con otros artistas de otros países, Hong Kong, África, igual tenemos amigos artistas latinos, ¿no? Entonces,
yes, my Latino artist.
Latins like me, yes, of course. Y también otra cosa importante que no les dije es que Charles es uno de mis estudiantes más aplicados, ¿no? De mis clases de acuarela. Ya tenemos como, I think we have 1 year or 2 years, like painting together in watercolor classes. I don't remember.
Yeah, pretty close. I'd have to look to see when we started. Yeah.
Maybe 2 years, I think.
I don't think 2, but I'm pretty sure 1.
Yes, 1 year. 1.5 year, I think.
I'll look at my PayPal. That'll tell me when I started.
Yes, of course. I will check it out. Y bueno, tenemos como 1 año y medio ya tomando clases y pintando juntos y ha sido como toda una experiencia. Entonces, y también darlo en inglés me ha ayudado mucho. Thank you so much for helping me with my English, friend. Yes, yes. I think without you, I couldn't do this, maybe this interview. So, thank you. Le estoy agradeciendo a Charles por su paciencia y por enseñarme inglés y corregirme en inglés. Y muchas gracias. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you.
Y si ustedes quieren como unirse a nosotros en nuestras clases de acuarela en inglés y en español, pueden mandarme un mensaje y yo les mando los datos. Y le pregunté a Charles que si recordaba como el momento en el que, o sea, cuánto tiempo hemos tenido pintando, y me dice, pues deberías de fijarte en PayPal, que es ahí donde me transfiere donativos. Y dije, sí, es una buena solución para saber desde cuándo empezamos. So thank you so much, friend, for coming here and to accept my invitation to show us your art. It's beautiful. I really love your watercolors and also your sculptures, and also the analogies and the stories that you told us about God, about how he could restore us, how he could be a sculptor, an artist who restore these broken parts. It's amazing. I really love it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fran.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope we can make another interview soon.
Yeah.
In the future.
Okay.
Maybe. Yes. To show your next sculptures, your next.
Yes. I have lots of sculptures now around since I've been home a lot. I've been doing quite a bit of sculpture. So.
Yes.
More of my trees.
You will do more.
Yes.
You will make more in the future. Yes. Thank you. Y gracias a todos por venir a vernos y espero que les haya gustado esta pequeña mini entrevista con mi amigo Charles. Bye.
Bye.
See you, friend. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless.